This is the OCR GCSE 9-1 Maths Paper 2 from the June 2018 series, and this paper is a non-calculated paper. Question number 1, part A. Write down a multiple of 6 between 10 and 20. Well, let's write down the multiples of 6. We have 6, 12, 18, 24, and we could continue. 12 is a multiple of 6 between 10 and 20. 18 is a multiple of 6 between 10 and 20. We could write down either 12 or 18. I'm going to write down 12. Part B, write down two factors of 30 that are prime numbers. Let's split 30 into its prime factors. Well, 30 we can split up as 2 times by 15, and the 15 we can further split up as 3 times by 5. So 30 written as the product of its prime factors is 2 times 3 times 5. So we can write down two factors of 30. We have 2 and 3. Question 2. Part A, write these fractions as decimals. 9 over 10, that's the same as 0.9. 3 quarters, that's the same as 0.75. Part B, a plank of wood 2.4 meters long is cut into 6 pieces of equal length. How long is each piece? Well, we've got this plank of wood, which is 2.4 meters long, and if we cut this into 6 pieces, what we have to do is divide by 6. So if I divide through by 6, we end up with 0.4 meters. So we have 0.4. Question 3, part A. For the first part, we have to work out 10 cubed. 10 cubed is the same as 10 multiplied by 10 multiplied by 10, and what this is equal to is 1000. So 10 cubed is 1000. For the second part, we have 9 multiplied by 8 subtract 3 times 2. Well, here we have to work in the order of operations. So we've got 9, and then let's deal with the bracket. We have 8 subtract 3 times 2. We deal with the multiplication first. So we have 8 subtract 3 times 2, which is 6. So we've got 9 multiplied by 8 subtract 6, which is 2. And it turns out we get 18. Part B, put brackets into this sum so that the answer is correct. We have 1 plus 2 times 3 plus 5 equals 17. Well, what I can see is that we have an 8 if I add 3 plus 5 together, and if I multiply that 2, I get 16, and if I add the 1, I get 17. So the brackets go here. Question 4, part A. Simplify 5x subtract 6y subtract x plus 3y. Well, 5x and the negative x, that gives 4x. And then we've got negative 6y plus 3y, which is negative 3y. For the second part, we've got w to the 8 divided by w squared. Well, here we have w to the 8 divided by w squared, and for this we have to subtract the powers. So we have w to the 8 subtract 2, which is equal to w to the 6. Next we have 5c squared d multiplied by 3c. 5 times by 3, that's 15. Then we have c squared times c, that's c cubed, and then we multiply this by d. Part B, work out the value of 4x subtract 7 when x is 5. Well, when x equals 5, we have 4 multiplied by 5, subtract 7, so we have 20, subtract 7, which is 13. Next, p plus 7 over 3 when p is 2. Well, when p equals 2, we have 2 plus 7 over 3, which is equal to 9 over 3, which is 3. Question 5. The shape is drawn on a 1 centimeter grid. That's what we see here. Part A. Ring the mathematical name of the shape. Well, here we have the opposite sides which are equal, so we have a rhombus. Next, how many lines of symmetry does the shape have? Well, we've got one line of symmetry here. We've got another line of symmetry here. What you can see, therefore, we have 2 lines of symmetry. Part C, we have to work out the area of this shape. Well, to work out the area, what we need to recognize is we have 2 triangles. Question 6. This bar chart shows the average monthly expenditure by category of households in a particular town in 2005 and 2015. Part A. In which category was there a decrease in the average monthly expenditure between 2005 and 2015? So we've got the darker grey, which is 2005, and the lighter grey, which is 2015. We want the lighter grey to be lower than the darker grey, and you can clearly see that's for entertainment. So we have entertainment. Part B. How much more was the average monthly expenditure on housing in 2015 than in 2005? So we take a look at housing, and what we want is the difference between these two. So that difference is the difference between here and here. So we have 560 subtract 480. So we have 560 subtract 480, and if I work this out, I get 80. Part C, the total average monthly expenditure in 2005 was 1,200. What percentage of this was spent on transport? So if I take a look at transport in 2005, you can see that is a value of 240. So we have 240. And then to find the percentage out of 1200, we divide this by 1200 and multiply by 100. So if I work this out, I have a fifth times by 100, which is 20%. Question number 7. In the diagram, AB is parallel to DC. We have to work out the size of the angle BDC, which is this angle here. Give a reason for each angle you work out. Well, we know what this angle is, we know what this angle is, so what we can do is find out the angle ABD. ABD, that's equal to 180 subtract this 80 subtract this 56, and if we work this out, we get 44. So this angle is 44 degrees. The reason for that is angles in a triangle sum to 180. Now, to find out what this angle is, we can form a Z angle as such, and then recognize that this angle will be the same as this angle. So the angle BC is equal to the angle ABD, which is equal to 44. So this angle is 44 degrees. And that's because alternate angles are equal. So we end up with 44 degrees. Question number 8. Liam is 0.83 meters tall. William is 1.31 meters tall. Jacob is taller than Liam by half the difference between Liam's height and William's height. How tall is Jacob? So what we'll do to begin with is we'll find the difference between Liam's height and William's height. So the difference between William and Liam, that's equal to 1.31 subtract 0.83, which is equal to 0.48 meters. So now what we'll do, well, we need to find out half of this difference. So if we find out half this difference, we've got half of this 0.48. So half of the 0.48 is 0.24 meters. So what we need to do with this height is add it on to Liam's height. So Jacob its height will be 0.83 plus 0.24. And if I work out what this is equal to, we get 1.07 meters. Question 9, part A. Elsie wants to divide a sum of money between Hannah and Adil in the ratio 2:3. Elsie says Hannah will get 2/3 of the money. Explain why Elsie is not correct. Well, the fraction should be 2/5, not 2/3. Part B, George has a different sum of money. He divides the money between Soban and Iwan. Iwan receives 11/17 of the money. Write the ratio of the money that Soban receives to the money that Iwan receives. Well, first of all, Soban receives 6/17 of the money, which means the ratio of S to I is 6:11. Question number 10. This Venn diagram shows the number of students in a Year 10 tutor group who study history and geography. There are 29 students in the tutor group. How many students in the tutor group do not study history or geography? Well, we've got 29 students altogether. What we need to do is subtract the 13 from history. Then we subtract 5 who study both history and geography. Subtract the 9 who study geography only. And if I work this out, I get 2. So 2 study neither. Next, how many students in the tutor group study history? Well, we've got 5 who study history and geography. And then 13 who study history only. So that's 18. One of the 29 students is selected at random. What is the probability that they study geography but not history? So geography but not history, there's 9 of them. So we have, out of 29, 9. Part B, this diagram represents students in a tutor group who study art or physics. How many students study both art and physics? Well, art and physics, there's no intersection, so there's 0 students who study both art and physics. Question 11, part A. Liu has a bag only containing red grapes and green grapes. 4/9 of the grapes are red. If there are 8 red grapes in the bag, how many grapes are green? Well, first of all, if 4/9 of the grapes are red, that means 5/9 are green. So, that means the ratio red to green is 4:5. Now, if there are 8 red grapes, from 4 to 8 we multiply by 2, so 5 multiplied by 2 is 10, so we have 10 green grapes. Sophia has a different bag only containing red grapes and green grapes. The number of grapes in her bag is different, but 4/9 of the grapes are also red. She picks out a red grape from her bag and eats it. 3/7 of the remaining grapes in her bag are red. How many of the remaining grapes in her bag are red and how many are green? So what we're going to do in this question is assume that the green remains the same. The reason for that is we are told that she only eats the red grapes. So let's think about how we can do this question. So we've got this bar model, we've got 4 to 5, that's before, and after we've got 3 to 4, and that's because of this over here. If 3/7 of the remaining grapes in a bag are red, that means 4/7 are green. Now we know that the green remains the same. Now here we've got 4 parts, here we've got 5 parts, and the lowest common multiple of 4 and 5, that is 20. So if I have 20 here, and also 20 here, that means each part over here will be worth 4. And each part here will be worth 5. So, here, for red then, we have 4 multiplied by 4, which is 16. Okay, so here we've got 16. And if each part is worth 4, here we'd have rather here we've got 5. Here we'd have 15. So we've got 1 less. We have 1 less than originally. 16 subtract 1 is 15. So that means then originally we had 16 and 20. Now in the remaining we have 15 red and we have 20 green. Question 12 part A, multiply out 4c multiplied by d, subtract 5. 4c multiplied by d is 4c d. 4c multiplied by negative 5, that's negative 20c. Part B, multiply out and simplify 3x plus 2 multiplied by x subtract 4. So 3x multiplied by x, that's 3x squared. 3x times by negative 4, that's negative 12x. 2 times by x is 2x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. So if I simplify all this, I've got 3x squared, and then I've got negative 12x plus 2x, that's negative 10x, and then I've got the negative 8 with it. Part C, solve 3x subtract 2 being less than or equal to 22. If I add 2 to both sides, we end up with 3x is less than or equal to 24. And if I divide both sides by 3, you will find x to be less than or equal to 8. Question number 13, part A. Calculate 3/5 plus 5/8. Give your answer as a mixed number in its simplest form. So, we have the 3 multiplied by the 8 plus the 5 multiplied by the 5 over the 5 multiplied by the 8. So 3 times by 8, that's 24. We add on to this 5 times by 5, which is 25. And we divide all of this by 5 times 8, which is 40. 24 plus 25 is 49, so we have 49 over 40. 40 goes into 49 one whole time, and what's left over is 9, so we have 1 and 9 over 40. Part B, work out 5 times 10 to the 4, subtract 1.6 times 10 to the 3, give your answer in standard form. Well, we need the times 10 to the n to be the same. So, for this, we can rewrite this as 5 times by 10 to the 4, subtract, and this 1.6 times 10 to the 3, we can rewrite as 0.16 times 10 to the 4. So if I work this out, 5 subtract 0.16, that's 4.84. So we have 4.84 times 10 to the 4. Question 14 here is the nutritional information for a 110 gram serving of cereal. So we've got carbohydrates, 99.4 grams, proteins, 9.5 grams, and fats, which is 1.1 grams. Emily says that more than 90% of this serving is carbohydrates. Is she correct? Explain your reasoning. So, what we need to do is find out 90% of the 110 grams. So, the 10%, that's equal to 11. So therefore, for 90%, we have to multiply by 9, so we have 99 grams. Now let's compare this 99 grams with the 99.4 grams. What you can see is the 99 grams is less than the 99.4 grams. They're saying that this serving has more than 90%, and clearly we have more than 90%. So is Emily correct? Yes, Emily is correct. Question 15. Here is a floor plan of a rectangular room. Tim buys carpet tiles for this room. Each tile is a square measuring 50 centimeters by 50 centimeters. The tiles are only sold in packs of 10. Each pack costs £20. Tim pays for fitting at a rate of £7.50 per square metre, with any fraction of a square metre rounded up. We have to work out the total cost of the tiles and fitting. So let's think about the length. Now here we've got centimetres, here we've got metres. Let's convert to an equivalent unit. 4.5 metres is 450 centimetres, and 3 metres is the same as 300 centimetres. So what we can do is find out how many tiles we've got going across and how many tiles we've got going down. So if we think about how many tiles we've got going across, well, we've got the 450, and this needs to be divided by 50. So we have 9 tiles going across. So let's find out how many tiles we go down. We have 300 divided by 50, which is equal to 6. So we have 6 tiles going down. So with this we can find out how many tiles we need in total. If I do 9 times by 6, we get 54. So we require 54 tiles in total. So we know that tiles are sold in packs of 10. So if I think about what this is saying, I've got 1 pack that's got 10, 20 tiles, that's 2 packs, 30 tiles, that's 3 packs, 40 tiles, that's 4 packs, 50 tiles in total, that's 5 packs, 60 tiles in total, that's 6 packs. So therefore, we require 6 packs in total. So, with this we can find out the cost of tiles. So the cost of tiles, well, we require 6 packs in total. So we have 6 multiplied by the cost per pack, so that's £20. So it turns out the cost of all the tiles is £120. What we can also do is find out the area of the floor. The area of the floor, that's 3 meters times by 4.5 meters, and if I work this out I get 13.5 meters squared. And remember, any fraction of a square is rounded up, so we can round this up to 14 meters squared. So what we know is it costs £7.50 per meter square, so we can find the cost to fit. The cost to fit the tiles, we have 14 multiplied by £7.50, which is equal to £105. So what we can do is find the total cost. So the total cost, that's equal to the £120, which is the cost of the tiles, plus £105, which is the cost to fit. So the total cost is £225. Question number 16. 4 identical trapeziums are placed on a coordinate grid as shown. Part A, write down algebraic expressions for the coordinates of P. So we start at the origin and we want to get to the point P. Now here, this length is A. From here to here is A, because we've got A units across. And this is B units up. So this length will be as well the same as this length. So here we also have B. So what we can now do is find out what this length is as well. If the total length is A, that means this length in green will be A subtract B. So to go from the origin to the point P, we go A across and A minus B units up. So the coordinates will be A minus B. Part B, the coordinates of point Q are 16, 13, and we have to work out the value of A and the value of B. So let's add this coordinate on. So here we've got 16, 13. So what we need to do is think about how we go from the origin to here. So we go A across, and then we are required to go another A across to get to the X coordinate, and then here we go B up to go to here, and then, well, we go B, then we have A minus B, and then here we'd have an A over here. So let's think about the X coordinate of Q. For the X coordinate of Q, how many do I go across? Well, I go A across and another A across, so that's 2A across. And how many do I go up by? Well, I go A minus B plus another A, so that's 2A minus B. So that's the coordinates of Q. So this coordinate is the same as 16, 13. So if I compare, I've got the 2a, which is equal to 16. So 2a is 16, which means a is equal to 8. And then if I think about the y coordinates, I've got 2a minus b and 13. So I've got 2a minus b equals 13. So I've got 2 multiplied by 8, so that's the value of a, minus b equals 13. 16 minus b equals 13, which means b is equal to 3. So I've got a, which is 8, and b, which is 3. Question 17. Viraj cycled from his home to visit his aunt. He drew this graph to show his journey. He stopped at a shop 7 kilometers from his home. So we've got the distance from home in kilometers and the time in minutes. Part A, state one assumption that Viraj made when he drew this graph. So we've got straight lines here in this distance time graph, which means she travelled at constant speed. Now, part B, for how long did Viraj stop at the shop? So that's when the speed is 0. And that's when we have a horizontal line, like so. And if we count how much that's worth 12 minutes. Then for part C, we have to work out Viraj's average speed between his home and the shop. Give your answers in meters per minute. So what we have here then is 7 kilometers done in 20 minutes. So I've got here 20 minutes, and here I've got 7 kilometers. So the speed will, well, let's write this down. The speed is equal to 7 kilometers divided by 20 minutes. So we want meters per minute, so we need to convert the 7 kilometers into meters by multiplying by 1,000, and then we divide by 20 minutes. So this will equal 350 meters per minute. Part D. How can you tell without doing any calculation that Viraj's average speed between his home and the shop is greater than his average speed between the shop and his aunt? Well, what we have to do is compare the gradients. And this gradient here is steeper than this gradient here. So the gradient for the first part of the journey, which is that gradient, is steeper than this gradient. So the graph is steeper for the first part of the journey than the second part. Question 18. The table shows the relative frequencies of the results for a football team after a number of games. Relative frequency of winning is 0.2, relative frequency of losing is 0.45. We need to find the relative frequency that they drew. Now we know that relative frequency adds up to 1. So for Drew, we have 1, subtract 0.2, subtract 0.45, which is 0.35. So we have 0.35. Next, the team lost 10 more games than they won. How many games did they play altogether? The relative frequency between won and lost corresponds to 10 games, which means the difference between 0.45 and 0.2 is 0.25. So this corresponds to 10 games. Now what we need to do is find out how many games they played altogether. So to do that, what we need to do is 10 divided by this 0.25. Well, 4 times 0.25 is 1. So 40 times by 0.25 is 10. So here we have 40 games. Question number 19. If Saw noticed this information on her car's dashboard at the end of her journey, she started her journey with a full tank of fuel and her miles travelled set to 0. So the miles travelled is 165, and part A, we have to work out how far Ifsaw's car can travel on a full tank of fuel. So the way we will approach this is to think about that the total distance travelled is x. So we've got the total distance, which is x, and this is how far we can travel with a full tank of fuel. Now if I take a look at this diagram, how much fuel have I used? Well, I've got 8 parts in total and I've already used 3/8 of them. So we use 3/8 of fuel. So therefore we have 3/8 of x, and this is equal to, well, they've travelled 165 miles. So what we need to do is find out what x is. So x, that's equal to 165 divided by 3/8. What this is the same as is 165 multiplied by 8 over 3. Now 165 over 3, that's 55. So we have 55 multiplied by 8, which is 440. So we have 440 miles. Part B, what assumption have you made when answering Part A? Well, we've assumed that the rate of fuel consumption remains the same. Question number 20. Here are 3 similar triangles, and we have to work out the value of x. Well, let's think about which sides correspond to what. This side corresponds to this side, which corresponds to this side. This side corresponds to this side, which corresponds to this side. And this side corresponds to this side, which corresponds to this side. So, let's think about our scale factors. From this shape to this shape, well, I'm going from 4 to 8, so what do I multiply by? Well, clearly, I would have to multiply by 2, which means to go from this shape to this shape, I would have to divide by 2. And, well, with that, let's find out what this length here is. So if I do 5, then divide by 2, I get 2.5. So this length here is 2.5 centimeters. Now let's think about how I go from the 15 to the 2.5. From 15 to 2.5, I have to divide by 6, and therefore from this shape to this shape, I have to multiply by 6. So if I think about this green length, I start off with this x, I have to multiply it by 6, and the result is 21. So how could I find out what x is? X is equal to 21 divided by 6, which is 3.5. So we have 3.5 centimeters. Part B. The diagram shows two right-angled triangles, OAB and OCD. We have to work out the length of BD. So let's think about how we can do this. Well, I've got this smaller triangle and this bigger triangle. Here I've got 14. Here I've got 4. Here I've got 7. So how could I go from this to this? Well, to go from 4 to 7, I have to multiply by 7 over 4. And to go from the 7 to the 4, well, I have to divide by 7 over 4. So to find out this length OD, I take my 14 and I multiply it by the 7 over 4. So if I work this out, I've got 14 over 4, which is the same as 7 over 2. So I have 7 over 2 multiplied by 7, which is 49 over 2, which is equal to 24.5. So, to find out what this length is, I've got BD, which is equal to 24.5, subtract this 14, and it turns out I've got 10.5 centimeters. Question 21. This shape consists of 3 semicircles, that's what we see here. OP is equal to OQ, and the length of PQ is 4x centimeters. We have to show that the area in centimeters squared of the whole shape is 3 pi x squared. Now the way to think about this is we've got these two semicircles identical, and we've got this larger circle. Now what we'll do to begin with is we'll state the radius of each. If the length of PQ is 4x, that means the radius from here to here will be given by (2x), and if PQ is the diameter, and if OP equals OQ, that means that the midpoint, which is here to here, this radius will be just x. So what we can do with this is find out the area of each. Now the two semicircles give a full circle, so the area of the circle, that's going to be given by pi r squared. So I've got pi multiplied by the radius squared, so I've got pi multiplied by x squared. So the area of the two circles is given by pi x squared centimeter squared. And what we can do is find the area of the big semicircle. So the area of the semicircle, we have pi multiplied by radius, so the radius here is 2x squared, and then we divide by 2. So we have 4x squared over 2, so that's just 2x squared pi. So we have 2 pi x squared centimeter squared. So therefore, for the total area, we have the pi x squared plus the 2 pi x squared, and it turns out we get 3 pi x squared centimeter squared, which is what we wanted to show.